Happy Friday once again, assuming you're watching this on Friday. If you're watching it on Monday, that's probably kind of depressing, isn't it? At any rate, congratulations. We have made it through week 6, moving right along through this semester. So first order of business, some of you may have noticed, I am not done grading your science writing assignments yet, and I'm sorry. I had really wanted to get them done last night, and I shattered my laptop screen, so that put me a little bit behind. But no worries, all my work was saved, and I had emailed work to myself, which is what I always tell y'all to do, just in case. I was working on editing a 183-page document, so I was very glad to have had it backed up somewhere. At any rate, I will get those done for you as quickly as I can. So our next assignment, we're moving into the social sciences. Well, actually, that's not true. We have moved into the social sciences already, and we are working on the literature review that will become part of your observation report or your research proposal, whichever direction you choose to go in. So let's talk about this literature review. Okay. A literature review, the idea of it is to basically see what is already out there on whatever topic you're researching, and it's a good place to identify gaps in the research, see what the current discussion is about the research, sometimes what the history is of the research in that particular field. So I was working with a student earlier today, so let's say I'm going to go with the topic that I talked to her about. So let's say that for your research, maybe you haven't even decided yet whether you want to do a research proposal or an observation. But let's say that you are looking at teacher and student interactions in the classroom. And maybe you start to wonder how different student characteristics or different teacher characteristics affect these interactions in the classroom. So you start to do some research and you find some articles in education journals and sociology or psychology journals that have that talk about studies where teachers were found to interact with students differently based on the teacher's gender. Or maybe you find some, maybe you find some that show that teachers interact differently based on their age, and you find some that show the interactions are different based on the socioeconomic status of the school district. I'm just pulling this out of thin air. This isn't actually research that I've done. So you could look at those things and you could decide maybe that you want to focus in on one of those particular topics, or maybe you want to consider all of those. So in your literature review, you will talk about what the subjects are that come out of this research. So you might write about what you found out from the articles on the difference in treatment based on the teacher's age, and then have a section that talks about what scholars found to be different about the socioeconomic status, etc. And now the important thing to note here is you're not going to go through and summarize each of these sources. The idea here is that you're going to arrange this literature review topically. You're going to look at the points that they discuss. This is where that literature review synthesis matrix can come in handy. There's an example in there of how it's some research, I believe, on women in World War II, how you would organize that topically rather than article by article. Okay. Now, when you do this, you're going to find that some of these researchers talk about different things. There's going to be some places where maybe a couple of researchers talk about the same thing. Maybe some researchers disagree. That's where it starts to get a little bit tricky to organize it. But that's also where sort of the point of the research comes in. You're kind of figuring out what the lay of the land is already. What's already out there? What are people looking at? Is there a gap in the research? Is there a place where maybe you could create a research proposal that would tackle something that they've left out of the research? Or do you think maybe there's a different way that you could go about a study that they did? Or maybe you want to do an observation. So how could you create an observation that will look at one of these issues, that will fill a gap in the research, look at this issue differently? Okay, so right now you're just worried about the literature review. You're just finding sources. You're just looking at the information and starting to synthesize that. So for this literature review, you don't have to give me a title page and all that stuff, and you can't do MRAD format with the literature review because you're not doing the study yet. Okay, you're just getting together your research. So for this literature review, you'll format it like any other essay. It's going to be an APA. You're going to use that for your citations, for your references page. You have your running head. You will use APA to cite your sources in the text and on your references page. You will need a references page on which you will cite all of the references that you use. Now, the literature review is its own assignment, but you are going to incorporate this literature review into the introduction of your observation report or your research proposal. In fact, many of you probably saw a review of literature in the articles that you read. When people do a study, one of the first things they do is they go out and do research to see what's already been done, what people believe, where the gaps in the research are. This is one of those early steps in that process, and that's why we're doing a literature review. It's great research practice. It's a great way to research something that you care about, that you're interested in, and you can start to see how you can enter this academic conversation yourself, what kind of research you might want to do and how you want to set that up. I hope that's helpful. If you still have questions about the literature review, please send them along. I'm happy to do an additional video during the week sometime, and I'm hoping to also get my video for you out a little bit early next week. I will be out of the office Friday, October 4th through Thursday, October 10th. I'll be back in the following Friday. I will be checking email some while I'm gone. I'm not going to just totally leave you high and dry, but I will be slower to respond than I usually am. It's also worth noting, if you happen to be taking on-campus classes, that school's fall break is coming up. That is Monday and Tuesday, October 7th and 8th. So a lot of us will be scarce around then, or we'll be, in bunkers grading all of these assignments. So I hope you all have a lovely weekend and that the course is going well for you. Things are looking pretty good so far. If you need help, if you have questions, you know where to find me, and I will be back in touch soon. Take care.